Okay. Good evening, our listeners. Welcome to Haz'el Inspirations. I'm your host, Leah, and we are back here in my beautiful state of Virginia. And I'm with Mr. Ford. And he is going to highlight us again to continue our segment on the reentry process. And today, I think we're going to focus a little bit on mental health, the mental health concerns while incarcerated, as well as when you come back to society. So, Mr. Ford, I want to thank you again for being a part of this and sharing your story. We've heard from so many presenters that have been on the podcast, but each one has a unique story to share. And I would like for you to start by sharing a personal journey with you, if any, that you have about the mental health while you were incarcerated. And then I want you to tell us about how you were able to cope and turn your life around, turn your mindset around to focus on other things. And then I'm going to tell you why I'm asking you this.
Okay. Well,
first of all, how you feeling today?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good. Yeah.
I always like to start because I'm a little bit,
Okay.
but I'm here.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, the best that I can say is, being incarcerated, going from being free, having total control of your own life, and going to a state of no control, and you're kind of ripped away like in an instant. When they find you guilty, your wife, your children, your house, your job is gone.
Right.
And you're put into a totally different environment. It affects everything that you can think.
Right.
It affects your dreams, because you're sleeping and you feel that you're at home. That's the last place that you remember. And when you wake up, you have the shock of knowing that you're actually incarcerated. So it's a constant wearing on the mind if you don't have the control of the mind. And when you're coming from, free society, so-called, your mind is really taken up on many things. You're doing a lot of moving around, a lot of going to work or visiting friends or being on the phone. And when you go from that state to being incarcerated, you're really sitting down and you're really hearing your thoughts. Sometimes you're in either a single cell, or you're in the hole, or you're in, a double cell, and you're just, getting to know what's going on in your mind, in your brain. And that can create its own so-called mental health crisis, but it is not necessarily a crisis in that way that should be being diagnosed. Many people, even myself, people were falsely diagnosed as being bipolar or schizophrenic or something like that inside the system, but in actuality, it's the situation.
So it's like it's an adjustment. And how is that? What do you call it? The fright moment, where as though you react to change, right?
Yeah, it could be that, but I think there's such an eagerness on, say the medical community or people who are educated, that they're not comprehending when a person is taken from free society and put into a prison, and then they go to diagnose you. If you're not taking that part into consideration, which I'm letting you know they do not do that, then you can have a misdiagnosis of a mental situation where it's like, well, is it actually the mental problem, or is it the adjustment. to incarceration and the loss of your whole life? The fact that you're facing a situation where you're about to have to do some time and go through the hardship of whatever that is, not to mention that you're on the phone all the time with your family and your children are crying for you. And so, that in and of itself creates a so-called mental health crisis that can be misdiagnosed, in my opinion, just based on what I've seen.
Now, when you said misdiagnosed, I'm assuming that these are licensed professional individuals that are diagnosing. These are not just so-called PAs or LPNs or nurses that are diagnosed. This is actually a psychologist or a psychiatrist that's diagnosing?
Yes, and the situation is you know, I would rather be diagnosed by another person who went through the same situation.
Okay.
So if you have a lot of these people who have all of these letters behind their name, they are the PhD, they're the
Yeah.
MD, they're
Yeah.
the LPN, they're all of these things, alphabet soup, but they have never lived in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't have any experience with it.
So they can't relate.
How can you advise me? How can you explain or diagnose my situation? How can we even have a conversation if you've never gone through this situation? Even with, I mean, there's many things that overlap. It could be somebody that had alcohol problem or drug problem, so they're having withdrawals or things like that. Not to mention why they were using drugs in the first place, and whatever other traumas that they have in their life, plus the additional trauma of being incarcerated, not being able to complete the other traumas that you had and resolve that situation. And now you're just left in here, probably with insufficient counsel and situations on your sentence or on your conviction that you had a problem with. So to put all that stuff in the same basket and then or diagnose this person as being bipolar or schizophrenic or give you a pill, or, you know, that's hardly the tool to use to address the situation of what's going on with people when they're incarcerated. So mental health, it's, you know,
it's vast though. Like you said, mental health is vast. But I want to ask you a question, because you meant, okay, hypothetically, person gets locked up, they are withdrawing from alcohol, or they're withdrawing from medication that they've been on for years, and they are put in a situation of a county jail, or they're sentenced, and they are trying to relate to personnel in the system that I was on XYZ medication, or I am a recovering alcohol and I need certain medication, or I need something to help me with my coping. And then it's like nobody's listening. And then that erratic behavior happens, and they're having these outbursts. And then this is what I'm hearing. And then they're classified, like you said. But there's a misdiagnosis, because they tried to tell you that I had an issue before I got locked up, and I was taking medication, and now you've taken me off my medication, so I'm having a withdrawal symptom. So in the system, they're not going to give you the same regimen that you were on when you were on the outside, right?
Right.
Okay. So how can we now look and fix that issue? Because it's going to continue. You know, it doesn't stop just because you're home or 1,000 other people are coming home. It's going to continue. And it's not just here in this state, it's in other states, it's in other counties, it's in other countries. That's something that's neglected. I mean, I just feel when you go into the system, the door is closed and you're forgot about. Okay, I've written it off, you know. Yeah, he's back there, you know, I'll get to him when I can. You have one counselor to what, 100 people, 50 people?
Or more. Right. Might be 200 people, might be 300 people.
And you have to put in a written notice to talk to them?
Right.
It's like you're in grade school and you got to put in a permission slip and be like, I want to talk to the principal. Right. Oh, okay, well, you got to write a request to talk to the principal.
Right. Well, the people who are most suited to deal with the situation are other people who have went through the situation. Right. Because a lot of behavior that people will class as, say, erratic, it's actually not erratic. It's consistent with what you should be doing if you were in that situation. So it seems erratic to a person who's never suffered that situation. Right. So if you've never suffered it, yeah, the person that's doing that, it seems erratic, but to everybody else, it's typical.
It's typical.
It's typical of what you should be going through in those stages of incarceration. Right. Depending on what your sentence was, what you were on. So there's even, you know, I was an advisor in the system, an inmate advisor, which is basically a lawyer inside the system to help people with charges, if they get charges from staff for violations or whatever. But a lot of the charges that you would see were what they call 120 in Virginia, operation procedure, 861.1. They call them 122,
Okay.
use of narcotics or use of illegal
Mhm.
substances. But the illegal substance that they were charging them with was, because they were using Suboxone. Now,
Right.
Suboxone, right,
Right.
is actually used in a lot of the jails and in a lot of treatment facilities to help a person withdraw from
Withdraw.
whatever drug that they're using.
Mhm.
And in the system, they actually penalize that. Now, the person was,
Why?
well, because they have it as a restricted or an illegal substance. It's not even prescribed from medical. So if a person, and they test the urine, and when they conduct the
Right.
urinalysis, they
And they
test for
test
Suboxone.
positive.
So when they
Okay.
test positive for Suboxone, they get a charge and they lose their good time, they lose their phone, they lose their visitation. So you're talking about adding on to the situation of so-called mental health that somebody else would
Mhm.
term as erratic, and this person is, he's not locking down, he's fighting the COs, he's getting into
Right.
fights in the pod. Yeah, but that's consistent with what he's
What
going through.
going
So
through.
I would understand it perfectly fine. I would not
Right.
give him a pill. What I would do is address his
His.
charge.
Mhm.
I would talk to medical and find out why can he not get Suboxone, so he could
Mhm.
come off like what he's trying to do is not use drugs, because you have a
Right.
choice. In
Right.
prison, you have a choice. You can either use drugs because the drugs are in there,
Right.
or you can use Suboxone.
Right.
So if a person is taking Suboxone, then that means he's actually trying not to
He's
use the
trying to.
drugs.
Right.
But you're punishing that person for that,
For that.
and then that person appears to have a mental problem. So that person, now he's not locking down. Now he's fighting. Now he might be suicidal. Now he might be,
Yeah.
getting tattoos on his face or whatever. But that's just a condition of the situation. And if a person has not been through that, it doesn't matter how many certificates you have.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that the people are
If you
being,
can't, excuse me, not to
yeah,
cut you off, but if you're not walking the walk, you can't talk the talk, right?
exactly.
Okay.
So we have a saying that says, you can't be a block of wood and point the way and have never gone that way before.
Mhm.
So you have to have gone through those situations.
Mhm.
But the people who are, so-called diagnosing it or evaluating it, they have no basis for which to evaluate it.
Okay. Now I want to ask you another question about that. Um. So, how long? Okay. I don't know the whole process when you from the court to the system. Isn't there a period where as though you're getting a physical or some type of history is taken on you
Well,
prior to be
I
going
mean,
to your location?
well, you're constantly screened, is what they call it. So you're
Okay.
screened and classified, evaluated. You have many different appointments, but
Okay.
it gets to the point of just checking off a checklist. But it does siphon you through the system. So
Okay.
I'm not going to say that there
There.
is
Okay.
there is not like an algorithm in place
Okay.
that evaluates this person. If he has this issue, or if he explains
Mhm.
that he has this issue, then he goes into this box, and then he will be seen by this type of person.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
just because you are seen by each one of these people, if they are not actually qualified, not qualified by necessarily the state with a
Mhm.
license, but qualified by experience of life. So if you can go through as many of those evaluations as you want and get as many pills as you want, but it might not address the situation. So
True.
it's,
That is so true.
it's the way, I don't want to just complain about it, but the way that you kind of address that or fix that is have more people at the table. We have to encourage
Okay.
more people that have actually been through these things. Like when
Okay.
I became an advisor in the system, it was because I used to get a lot of charges. You know what I'm saying? I went to the hole many, many times.
Okay.
So in every facility almost that I was at, I was in the hole. But and because I was good at fighting the cases, and many times so-called beating the cases or having the cases overturned on appeal because some of them were false charges, or you know um,
Mhm.
charges that were blown up, trumped up,
Mhm.
as we could say. Um, because I was good at that process and helping other people, they offered me the job of being an advisor. Why? Because of my experience in dealing with the situation.
Mhm.
So if you take that, for instance, and compare it to the situation of somebody trying to diagnose someone for a mental health situation, and you've never
Yeah.
been through
And you've
that,
never been through it. Yeah.
well, you have to use the same type of logic. The same type of logic
Yeah.
applies. If this person is going to be good to help people get out of the charges, because sometimes, I mean, a lot of officers, they will put they are the ones sometimes that will reach out and say, that's how I got mine. Officer reached out and said, along with several other inmates, and they said, yeah, you know what, you've been through this situation tons of time.
Mm-hmm.
We need you up here to help out the guys, because some of these guys are getting some false charges written on them. Some of these guys cannot defend themselves. So even the officers in many cases see it,
Okay.
So it is something that now, whether they are given a gold star or reward or punished or marginalized or whatever for their recommendations, that's another question. And if that's happening, that needs to be addressed as well. Because if the point of going through the so-called Department of Corrections, which is to correct, is actually the goal that it states out to be, or if the counselor is a counselor and actually counsels, you know what I'm saying? If a correctional officer corrects, so then these people have to live up to their titles and their names, and they have to be given the ability to do that. Now, if you're not given the ability to do it, if you're not rewarded for it, if it's not encouraged, if no one can recognize that's what needs to be done, then that type of environment won't exist. It's just the prisoners over here, the COs over here, the counselors over here, they're in their room writing reports, you're getting pills, the COs aren't aware of that.
And no one's really monitoring you.
They're monitoring you. I mean, you're monitored all the time. But
I'm saying, like, if you're giving me medicine, I think you should be monitoring me but at least see how I'm doing in 24 hours. Don't wait till I have to come back the following week and say, hey, okay, here's your next. No. What about, the episodes that I've had all week long? Or did you do a check-in, or did you do a checklist and say, okay, any headaches, any vomiting, any this and that? It should be a protocol, a standard protocol. If you're given a certain medication, then I need to make sure you're not having any side effects to it. Or if you are, then we need to adjust it, right?
Right. And that is occurring. However, it's almost like it's on a experimental basis. Like what I would say, a lot of the medications are experimental.
Right.
So, I mean, I've had my situations in there with certain type of medications. And with that, you could be prescribed one type of medication, but it'll be manufactured at India and Pakistan, and so you're really being, for the most part, experimented on.
A guinea pig.
Yeah, I mean, so it's halfway treatment, halfway experimentation. I might go back and say, I have a rash right here, my hand is swollen, but that can go into, when the medication comes out and they have all the side effects already known.
Like if it was a clinical trial.
Well, that's what we are. We're the clinical trial, and there's many reports to back that up. So, so it's half and half. You don't know why you're being evaluated or for what purpose.
So you don't know if you're given as they call a placebo.
Oh, you're giving placebos a lot. Okay. They tell you that if you press them on it, they'll let you know.
Okay.
That, we pretty much gave you a placebo for this period of time. We wanted to see if what you were complaining of was real. And, because they don't really have a way to evaluate you outside of the office or the clinical setting unless you get a charge, unless you get some kind of incident report written against you that they evaluate. But the day-to-day interactions in the pod, how you deal, what you watch on TV, how you comment, they're not aware of that because we live in separate environments.
Right.
They have their office, and it's not connected to where the housing units are.
Wow. I tell you, boy, you learn something new every day. Now, you said that there are programs in place, but we need to strengthen them, right? Or the practices they have in place, they need to cartel it a little bit so that everyone benefits from it. Because in certain areas up north, people are being released from prison that have mental issues, and then they're going out here and they're committing crimes because they're not stable. You released them because it was time to release them. You couldn't hold them again. But they didn't really prepare them or connect them with where they needed to go.
Or they exacerbated the situation by incarceration or by the situations that were occurring during incarceration. So like I said, if you take a person and if they were going through things, and that
Mhm.
is why they came into contact with the criminal justice system,
Mhm.
and you rip that person from that life, and you didn't actually address what was going
Right.
on. Why did he end up in front of the judge? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the encounter with the police officer is pretty much the final part to something else that was going on all
Right.
along.
Right.
So if you choose as a method of correcting that
Mhm.
incarceration, and not maybe, okay, why were you robbing the
The
store?
underlying root, right?
Yeah, well, did you
Mhm.
need money? Did you need a job? Did you need
Mhm.
trade? Did you need skills? So maybe we can address that, and then you
Mhm.
wouldn't be in that situation. But to fix everything, everything to a hammer, it looks like a nail. So, like, if you're gonna try to fix that situation by incarceration, everybody across the board,
Mhm.
then you're not fixing anything.
Mm-mm.
You're prolonging something,
Mhm.
or you might be exacerbating it, because
Mhm.
now I'm making it a compound situation.
Mhm.
Whatever it was, if it was I was stressing because I didn't have enough money to feed my children and take care of the
Mhm.
bills. Okay, well now you create a situation for the wife that's taking care of the children. Now
Yeah,
she's by
because you're
herself.
out of the house.
Yeah, if you look at the
Yeah.
situation, some of these areas, like if you look at Richmond, and you look at the way that they have their jails situated, they have some specials that they used to run on PBS. But if you look at the way that they have their jail situated in the middle of the neighborhood, pretty much right in the middle, the
Oh.
criminal justice system is in the middle. So it is like a filtration system to send people into the Department of Corrections, and it anchors that family to that location,
Wow.
because that person, their significant other, is incarcerated. And many times, like at Greensville, you might have an entire family almost incarcerated at the same prison. So you have the father, the son, the uncle, the brother, the cousin
Oh my God.
at the same place. They might be cellies too. So you have a place that's incarcerating an entire neighborhood. When people come into the prison, they know pretty much everyone from the street.
From the streets.
So you're creating a situation on purpose, to anchor people to that
Mm.
location. So a lot of these things, it's always talked about like some kind of thing that needs to be diagnosed by a doctor or something like that. But in reality, sometimes we have to sit back and look at, why is this actually happening?
Mhm.
Why do we have a prison or a jail and a criminal justice center in the middle of a neighborhood, and a large percentage of those people are hooked to that system, and they have somebody inside making it so they are now stuck. They can't move. They got to take care of this person. Half of their income is gone.
Mhm.
Now when this person comes out, a lot of times they
The
tell them
home
you
is
can't.
gone. The job is gone. Vehicle is gone.
Right,
And families. Most of your family is gone, except for, like you said, whoever's in there with you.
right.
But
So
you lost connection. The disconnect starts.
So if you want to find out about a mental health crisis or a mental health situation, that is what it is. It's actual real life problems being
Yeah.
diagnosed as a mental health situation. And it's like, no, that's a real life situation. Those are
Yeah.
a bunch of real life problems
Yeah.
that you're diagnosing as a mental health problem.
And
And it,
it's not even that. It's just a matter of our body trying to cope to something that's different and unfamiliar to us,
right.
that we haven't been exposed to. Like when I was driving down here, I think I was telling you that the traffic from where I started, point A, to driving down here was terrible, and people were swerving in and out. And I'm like, where are you going? We're
Mm-hmm.
all in the same area. We're all facing traffic jam. Be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we make hasty decisions. So when some people, and including myself at times, when you're in a square and you have no outlet except for that one door that is too small for you to get through right now, you don't know how to react.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how you can relate. When people are in the inside, that's how they see it. Like, I have nowhere to go, I have no one to talk to, because nobody's going to understand. Like you said, you talk to the counselor, they don't understand because they ain't never been down that road. Okay, well, I talked to my bunkie over here. he got other issues. You know, he ain't necessarily what I gotta say. So who do you talk to? Doesn't it just builds up, right?
Well, the number one counselors in the system are the brothers that's in the system, or
Okay.
the older sisters. I don't know. I haven't been into the female system,
Mm-hmm.
but I imagine that it's in the same way. People who have been there, who have been incarcerated for some time, have gone through those things, or have been back and forth. They are
Mm-hmm.
the number one counselors.
Okay.
So myself, see, I have this gray hair. I didn't come in the system with that, you know. But when I came out, I had that gray hair because of what I had been through, and what I experienced, and the knowledge I had to give or receive. So
Mm-hmm.
um, like basically we are doing the mentoring. We do it in
Mm-hmm.
our religious services. We do it in the law library. We do it
Mm-hmm.
on the basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
Some people try to say that, even, I even give credit to some the gang leaders, or what we call the big homies or something, because a lot of them are actually, they come through a lot of the lessons. They come through a lot of these temples. They come through a lot of the
Okay.
like they've come through the church, they've come through Islam, they've come through the Moor
Okay.
Science Temple and Nation of Islam. So they have a lot of lessons, and that's how they reach uh, their people. You know what I'm saying? That are
Okay.
still in that situation,
Okay.
and they are utilized. They're very important. So out here they're criminalized, but in there they're very
They're
important to
they're
the
very
structure of what's
important.
going on.
Okay.
But we are the biggest teachers. Once you
Mm-hmm.
get those grades and once you come up in the knowledge, you are the teacher. You are the
Okay.
instructor. You are the guide. You are the one that's showing the guys that's coming in. Well, you can make it to this point because see, I made it to this point. You're just
Okay. So
now
you're
coming in.
mentoring.
That's
You're
right.
mentoring.
You're showing them how to navigate. So
And do you think that's helping them with their coping and helping them with their strategies to ensure that um, they have someone to lean on, that they have someone to talk to, and that it can help build that inner strength within them to say, okay, I got 10 years to do. I'm going to do this 10 years, but I'm going to take the advice of someone that's did it 15, 20 years. And I see the success that they've done, and I see how they have coped, and how, yes, you said you went in with no gray hair, you come out with gray hair, but unfortunately, we know that that's life, right?
that's right. Now, when I arrived at King Mountain, which is
Mm-hmm.
maximum security level 4, um, when I came in, I had 22 years.
Okay.
So to me, I had the most time ever.
Okay.
But when I got there, and some of my cellies and other people I dealt with, one of my cellies, he looked at my paperwork. He said, "Oh man, you're good." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got 22 years." He
Yeah.
said, "No, you're good." He said, "You have a release date." He said, "Mine says 99999. You see, most of ours
Oh.
says 99999. We don't have a release date. So you have a release date. You have
Oh.
something to look forward to. And we've
Okay.
been down for 20. He's been down for 30. He's been down for 40. And so I have that to look to and say, oh, okay, right. See, I can make it through the situation because these brothers are still built up strong. They didn't let the system destroy them. They made it past the amount of
Okay.
sins that I have. So that helped me. Now, somebody else, a counselor or a person with a PhD, can't tell me that. You can't tell me
Right.
how to deal with
Right.
this
Right.
situation. Oh yeah, just go ahead and go to your cell, and if you have any problems, how do you know? You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I'm thinking that I'm about to die in here.
Yeah.
Now someone is actually in here telling me how to survive in here, what not to get involved with, what to get involved with, what to study, how to study
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff that we talk about mental health,
Yeah.
it deals with the mind.
Is it a mind over matter?
It is.
Okay.
Well, it's a mind connected with the matter.
Okay.
It's all connected.
Okay.
So when we start talking about anything dealing with the mental, we're talking
Yeah.
about, and when you go into these realms, we call the higher levels, but they're higher level prisons, but they're also higher levels of thought.
Okay.
So when you go into these realms, right, you start learning about things about your spirit, your soul, and your body.
Mm-hmm.
But your
Mm-hmm.
soul and your mind is a connected
That's right.
situation. So we always say, like we say in the temple, it is not in flesh and bones to think or reason.
Okay.
You know, so your flesh and your bones don't think or don't reason.
Right.
You know, we say those are actions of the soul:
Okay.
thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, and searching.
Okay.
So sometimes we say, instead of searching, we say remembering.
Remembering.
So that is
Okay.
using something that is other than what we call your finite senses. Your finite senses would be finite,
Finite.
like they have a limit.
Okay.
They are, you know, measured in space and time.
Okay.
So we say your finite senses would be, you know, contained to your body.
Okay.
Okay. You have, we say, five senses: sight,
Yeah. Yeah.
hearing, smell, taste, touch.
Right.
You know, so those would be the five. We would say those come from, you know, everything from the brow below, and then what comes from above right here from your, what we call your pineal gland or pineal gland, or however people want to say it, your third eye. You know, that's where you
Yeah.
start pulling in and start accessing these other senses, you know,
Okay.
these less finite senses.
Okay. Now, you know what? Okay. So, is it true that your senses become more keen, like your hearing and your sight and your thought pattern? Is that because you're in tune with yourself?
Yeah, because you're confined. So for most part, you can move around in the prison a lot, but you're confined in a way that you weren't out here in society. Out
Right.
here, you can rip and run.
You can, right. Right.
So sometimes the most elevation of thought that you have is while you're in the hole, because you really can't go anywhere.
Okay.
You're stuck in there with your thoughts, so you have to build on that. So we call that like tools of the workshop of the mind. So what you're doing is you are using tools and working on your mind.
Okay.
So
and you can continue to do that out here in society, right?
Yeah, but you have to really manage it, and that's where my problem is, and it's not a problem necessarily, but it's something that that I am learning to navigate.
Okay.
Is the fact that I'm able to move around, but I still don't want to lose that higher consciousness, I guess you want to say, of what I had while I was in a confined state.
Okay.
Like when you're in a confined state, you have to think more.
Okay.
So, you know, we teach about thinking, like I said, reasoning, willing, understanding, and searching. It's something that you have to do, but when you're moving around and you're going to and fro, you're not really doing that. You're reacting. You know, you're chasing something that what we call your manifest body needs. You know, you're hungry, you need to get food. You smell something, you want to go. You see something, you go chase after. So that's like you're actually, what we call, you would be lowering your vibration, but it would seem like you're doing more, but you're actually doing less because your physical vibration is very slow. You know, it's manifest.
Okay.
Your thought vibration is very fast. It's much faster. It's actually faster than the speed of light. So when you are using that and these infinite senses that actually have to come from up here, that's where your mind is. So when people say you have a mental health problem, it's like, yeah, you have a problem of thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, and searching. You don't know how to think.
Right.
Because you don't know how to think. You're usually reacting. People hear something, you're almost on the level of an animal, on a beast. You know, animals react.
Right. But and you're right. You're right. They do. And we as humans, yeah. You know what? I think we're going to continue this. This is more of an in-depth topic than I had anticipated. So why don't we take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about it a little bit more, okay? Okay, we are back. Thank you. We both needed a little break. Yeah. Thank you. Wish I had a coffee break though.
Yeah. Really.
We have to go get coffee after this.
Yeah, without a doubt.
We were discussing the mental health issues and concerns that individuals, whether they're male or female, have being incarcerated. We highlighted that the misdiagnosing. We highlighted about medication administering. And we highlighted about getting the professional support that they may need, he or she may need. I want to just highlight a little bit about the therapeutic approaches and treatments. What do you think, since you've been home, that because you've been gone for a moment, have you seen a change in that industry? Whereas though, are there more supportive programs now, or do we need to speak with legislative council or senators or whomever we need to speak with to try to get those programs highly enforced?
Um, I mean, what I'm doing now and
Mm-hmm.
what I was doing while I was incarcerated was um, building and designing programs, learning from the programs that existed in the system,
Okay.
and extrapolating from that to build our own programs. You
Okay.
know, they do have a lot of good framework for some of the programs, but they might have bad, I'm not going to say bad necessarily people teaching it, but under experienced,
Mm-hmm.
um,
So there's a
under sympathetic.
disconnection somewhere.
Yeah, but the way that we can resolve that is build our own programs. Like, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that we learn inside is that you're going to have to learn to do for self. So to be self
Okay.
sufficient. So to keep going to someone else to solve our problems when we
Mm-hmm.
are the ones suffering that problem, that's
Right.
part of the problem. So when, like, now I'm in the position
Right.
to, you know, implement and bring to task some of those things that I learned.
Okay.
If I can't go back to the same people that I know don't have the
Correct.
understanding to fix the
Correct.
situation, you know. So it's up to me. The same thing that I was doing inside, the same thing the other brothers are doing inside that they were doing with me and doing with others,
Mm-hmm.
is what needs to take place. So that's why um, since I've been out, I've been working on starting my LLC
That's right.
and the 501c, so I can start to get the grants. I'm listening to brothers like Andre Norman, who is doing an
Mm-hmm.
excellent job in bringing knowledge of people who had done significant amounts of
Mm-hmm.
time. Some did a little bit of time, but they came out. They did not let that situation break them, and they
Yes.
used that knowledge that they learned while they were locked up to make a change in their own life for their own
Mm-hmm.
family, but also bring aid and assistance to brothers and sisters that's inside. Because I don't want to miss out on the sisters. You know what I'm saying? We talk
Yeah.
about the brothers, but the sisters are going through,
This is,
might be
yeah.
compounded situations, might be 10 times worse. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Right.
But I've heard things, and I don't have enough experience to elaborate on it. But I'll let them do their own talking for the situation. But we have to solve our own problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of the knowledge that came through a lot of the groups that you know, a lot of the people that are incarcerated, especially during a certain period of time in the 80s, well,
Mm-hmm.
70s, 80s, 90s, when they, especially in 90s, the prison population exploded by 400% because they, um, you know, they got rid of parole. They
Mm-hmm.
implemented three strikes laws. They implemented
Mm-hmm.
these crazy, outrageous crack cocaine laws and all this type of stuff. They initiated the Prison Litigation Reform Act. They
Mm-hmm.
initiated the the AEDPA, which the Anti-Terrorism Effective Death Penalty Act, which
Mm-hmm.
closed off the amount of time that you had to file habeas corpus petitions and things like that to address your convictions in a
Right.
post-conviction manner. So it basically locked people into the prison system. So
Right.
during that time period, you have a lot of brothers, you know what I'm saying? When I say brothers, you know what I'm talking
Right.
about. But they came into the system. But a lot of them came in either with knowledge of,
Mm-hmm.
say, Moore Science Temple, Nation of Islam, Nation of Gods of Earth, 5%ers, whatever it was. And in those groups, and that knowledge has proliferated throughout the system in whichever way it is manifested now. It might be in a program that you
Right.
don't know where the knowledge came from, but it probably came out of one of those groups.
Right.
But a major message in those groups is to be self-sufficient, for our
Right.
communities to be self-sufficient. Stop looking for other people to help you. Look to the God within you and
Right.
tap into that. You know, that's why we have a group that is what we call the 5%ers, but
Right.
some people call it nations of gods and earths, because it's
Okay.
saying really basic, you got to find the God within you. Stop finding the God
Right.
without you, and find the God within you
Within
and
you
fix your situation.
to fix your
So if we
situation.
are coming out of the prison in sound mind, instead of me getting caught up into whatever's going on out here, or these people trying to
Mm.
put me to task or put me on the field, because that's what they call it. You know, you say, well, what field do you work in? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that is. It's a plantation. So it's a field. So you want to put me on somebody's field so I can be doing something for them. Well, I already did that before I was incarcerated. So that's not what I aimed to do when I came out.
Mm.
When I came
Mm-hmm.
out, my mind had changed.
Your mind, right?
So now I'm looking to, you know, do for self
Right.
and do for our people and do for
Okay.
anybody that's suffering. I don't care if their uh, skin is like mine or they are
Mm-hmm.
the European brothers or they are the so-called Hispanic brothers, because we consider them Asiatics and we say Asiatics. So
That's
we
right.
so
That's
so now
right.
if we're gonna get down to it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm reserving what I'm saying for real.
Right.
But um the help, like we say, our job is to uplift fallen humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So in this process, in dealing with, you have to go to the lowest of the lowest places. You have to go to the prisons. You have to go to the hoods. You
Yeah.
have to go to the projects. You have to go to war torn places and impoverished places and places in drought. If you're going to actually say that you can't help, I mean, you can help people that are in a little bit less situation than yourself, but you have to go to these places what we call the dismal crypts, because the dismal crypts is not just a place, it's a state of mind, it's a state of your spirit, it's a state of your understanding. So you have to lift the people out of the dismal crypts, but you have to go in that place and suffer that. You know, if you don't go in there
Mm.
and suffer that, how can I meet the sore temptations of my brother man that is in that situation? How can I know how to succor those in need,
Right.
as our book says? So that is why it is important for us to design those programs. You know, the people
Okay.
have the money. If you have the knowledge and they have the money, well, they're looking at you like, why don't you start the program? I got the money right there. So stop. We don't do
So
that.
that's the infrastructure that we need to design today.
Exactly. That we need to design.
That's what I'm saying. We need to design
Right.
men, women that have been faced with this turmoil in their life, instead of whether I've been in prison or not. I have loved ones that are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm riding this journey with them. Um, and uh, as a mother, it's hard to see your son or your daughter doing time and you're forbidden to support them the way that you need to, because my voice doesn't carry that far. And I don't know how far your voice carries on the inside, but um, and what I mean by that, if something happens on the inside, it's lockdown. Everybody suffers. You don't get no phone time. You don't get no kiosk time. You know, visits are canceled and everything. So sometimes that can affect a person's mental health too, because they wait all week or wait 2 weeks and they know a family member is coming, and then all of a sudden something happens. Oh, we're going to penalize everybody. Ain't nobody having nothing because maybe one person, you know, had a bad episode or something happened and everybody has to suffer. So I think we need to look at how the infrastructure is done, and I think we need to change it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to change it in 10 years from now. I think we need to start today. And it may take us a decade to get it finalized. Hopefully, it won't. But I just think that whatever voices we petition and we voice concerns about so many political aspects in life. And this is one area that I'm going to be honest with you, that mental health and a couple other issues are not addressed.
Right.
I think it's on a low totem pole. And mental health can, you know, affect me in a different way because maybe I consider myself to be obese.
Mm-hmm.
So mentally, I'm thinking that I'm overweight.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that I cannot function. Doesn't mean that you can't function. But doesn't mean that people in prison can't function. It's just something that I have to overcome. Like you said, I have to change the way that I'm thinking about myself, and I have to look at those 5 components and say, okay, you're the only one that can change. No one else can change you but you. So, but we have to give them the tools. Somebody has to give me the tools and say, this is how you're going to take this on. This is how you're going to change it.
Mm-hmm.
My and I don't want to take away from you, but my goal in life was not to do a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
My drive was to open up a facility and bring in individuals that were incarcerated, no matter how old they were, give them a safe haven, but give them the tools and resources they need to transition back out there. And I wanted it to be designed with individuals that were in the system. So, and that's what we are talking about today. Unless you have walked that path, how can you relate to my situation, or how can you coach me on how to live better, or how to think when you yourself have never been behind a wall? You've never been in a cell.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what it's like to have somebody tell you when to eat, when to sleep, when to, this and that. You don't know that. So you don't know what mental damage is doing to me and how I'm adjusting. I'm not saying that everyone that goes in prison needs to be in prison, but I think that we need to be a little bit proactive and have resources for when they do transition back.
Right.
So that was my goal in life, and I still thinking about it. I think I'm achieved that.
I mean, you're doing it like this podcast, like you coming down. I mean, you came down from New Jersey to Virginia and then, when I discuss that with people, they're like, she came down from New Jersey to Virginia to do a podcast with you. It's like, yeah, I guess she sees something or hears something or knows something more than even what I know, and
we've done recordings all the way in Florida.
Right.
Although they're by Zoom and audio, we've done episodes in Minneapolis. So we are doing a couple in Ohio. I'm trying to be global. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be situated and fixated on one particular area, but I want us to come together as a community, mm-hmm. and I want us to come together and unite. You do marches, we do marches for sometimes the wrong things, mm-hmm. but nobody marches for the people that was incarcerated.
Yeah, we need to do less marching. So we don't need to march so much. We need to do more.
We need to do.
So what you're doing, somebody might have marched from New Jersey to Virginia, but what did you actually do?
What did you, right.
So that's where we're getting past the marching stage. We're not, saying anything negative against those who did march, because they, brought us into awareness that things need to be done. But now we're past the marching stage.
Yes.
We could watch the videos of the people marching.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So now let's do what they were talking about in the marches.
Action. We need action. So we need action.
So this is what you're doing. This is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. This is what many other people in our situation. There's a brother. He was at Coffeewood, and he mm-hmm. had got out on a pardon. His name is Jesse Crossan. He's doing a lot of work.
Yes. And I hope that we can together try to speak with him and have him. The more people that we bring in that's been in a system, and we all want to facilitate the same message.
That's right.
So I would love to have, and you said something on our first podcast, and I'm sorry, but I can't repeat it word verbatim how you said it, but it's like the laws of attraction. Mm-hmm. I want that positive energy from people that want to stand behind us.
That's right.
Or stand with us,
right.
to support us.
That's right.
I do not want people to try to benefit from doing something that they're not supposed to. Mm-hmm. This is not an area in a person's life that you want to give them misguided hope. Mm-hmm. They need hope. They need to know. And also, I got to get on you about something. You said that you ain't working. Mm-hmm. No, you're working. And that's part of our next message. You are working. Since you've been home, you are facilitating is not the right word to use. You are collaboratively working with brothers, mm-hmm. and I think a couple sisters, mm-hmm. that are still in the system, mm-hmm. and you're helping them on their legal issues.
Yeah.
And that's part of that's a episode that's going to be coming up. But I don't know what time you get up, but I'm just going to say you have a 9-to-5 job because you are constantly doing work for them. You're supporting them. You're connecting with them because you know what? You're a man of your word. You said, when I get out, I'm going to continue the work that I was doing inside in the law library. I'm going to continue on the outside because I can get a little bit more resources. And I like that because a lot of people, when they get out, they're not true to their word. I'm sorry to say that,
right.
But they're not.
Yeah, I mean, that environment teaches you to be true to your word. See, out here in the street, before I got locked up, you could get away. You know, you could say something and not show up. You can lie and say my phone cut off and you're over here across town.
Right.
In prison, you can't do that.
You can't do
Somebody's
that.
Somebody's going to be at your door.
Somebody's got.
So you're going to have to learn to be a man of your word. So it's something you learn over time. You're going to learn it with some pain. But yeah, when you come out that process, if you truly went through those things, you'll learn it.
Right.
And then when you come out, you will be a man of your word. You will be a woman of your word, and you will do what's required for you to do, not for somebody else.
Right.
So in our teachings, it always teaches our closeness with our Creator, our closeness with the law. And he says, with God, Allah, however you want to call it, Yahweh, whatever. But he says, I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. So if I'm closer to you than your jugular vein, and you know your jugular vein is inside of your neck, right?
Yeah.
So that means I'm inside of you. So why are you waiting for something else? If you believe in this God somewhere, I'm telling you, I'm right here inside.
You're right here inside.
So be the God over that situation and fix it. Do what you're supposed to do. You know, stop waiting. God doesn't pray to anybody. So if you have that inside of you and you are in touch with that, then manifest that. Bring that into fruition.
Yes.
That's what we talk about. Belief, faith, and fruition.
Okay.
We say belief is what man thinks is the truth.
Okay.
Faith is what man knows is the truth. Fruition is when he is that truth, when he manifests that truth.
Okay.
What it was that he once believed, he lost the belief in faith because now he knows, and then he lost the faith in fruition because he brought it to be.
You don't have to have a PhD to think like that or to speak. No. So we don't need all these letters behind our name to know the truth and to be able to speak the truth and to be able to walk the truth.
That's right.
So thank you. I needed to hear that too myself. Lord have mercy. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. So then we done covered about the mental, but some kind of way that ties into the financial. Because if you are not mentally prepared to accept the transition back to re-enter into the world, how are you going to financially prepare yourself if you're trying to cope and sustain? And finances, I mean, because you're going, and what I mean by that is you're going from a different diet plan to now you're out here in the community, society, and you're going to fast food, you're going to food that you haven't had in 10, 15, 20 years, maybe 3 years. So your taste buds are different. So you got to train your mind all over again, right? To accept, okay, I'm seeing cars, now I got to catch a bus. Okay, I remember, I'm going to be honest with you, I remember when I used to catch a bus, and I think it was like 60 cents. Now today, it's $3, $4. One way, and then you got to get a pass. You got to get a transfer. Remember tokens? We had tokens. They don't have tokens no more. So I'm adjusting as well as you're adjusting. But how do you, from your perspective, how did you change your mind, come home, like, okay, now I have to do a budget because I got to eat, I got to sleep, I got to get my toiletry items. The cost that it was in at the commissary is totally different than the cost out here. How have you been able to cope?
Well, like, first of all, I want to say that all of these things are connected. So there is no disconnection between your mentality, your mind, and your finances.
Okay.
So that's all part of the same thing.
Okay.
Based on how your mind is or your thoughts, like we say, your thinking, your
Mm-hmm.
reasoning, your willing, your understanding, or your remembrance, or your searching, is it affects your finances.
Yes, it does.
Okay, if you can't think, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't reason, so if I can't reason and say, well, instead of buying toothpaste at this place, I should buy it at this place. It's the
Right.
same. It's cheaper. It's a dollar store.
Right.
You know, you know, that can just be a very practical
Mm-hmm.
situation. Just knowing how to navigate.
How to
Like we
navigate.
say, more is a navigator, so we know how to
Right.
navigate. We know how to, like I could take a bus that's $3, or I could take the bus that's free.
Mm-hmm.
Because the omnibus around here, I ride it for free all day long. I
That's
don't pay.
right.
I don't pay a dime.
That's right.
So, and I use that, to find out where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do. So a lot of that is just your thoughts. So if your thoughts are on, I have to have the best type of shoes, the best type of clothes, I got to catch up and keep up with the Joneses, as they say, or whatever, then your finances are going to be affected by your thoughts. So it's connected. So,
and not to cut you off, but if that was the case and they're trying to keep up with the Joneses and they know that there are limited finances, that's going to put them in a position where they're going to do something unethical.
Yeah, well, the Joneses are trying to keep up with the Joneses. So, who's the Joneses?
Yeah.
But, that's just the thought. We say the thought is the cause of it all. Right. The cause of it all, including your finances, including if you have no finances. Right. So when you leave out of prison, you do leave out, like, if you spend enough time with $1,000. Okay. And it becomes on how you manage that and what your desires are, where your mind is at. Yeah. So, if you don't have that part under control to some degree, and you're not working on that while you are so-called incarcerated, that's basically a timeout. It's really a time for you, people, it is a bad situation, but it can be a good situation.
Okay. Do they help prepare you, like give you, I'm going to say like financial 101 class to help you prepare? This is how you should try to budget yourself when you leave and go.
Yeah, generally there are things like that in the system that a person can tap into. So they do have that. And they have, like, you will have to go through re-entry before you leave the prison anyways, and you'll get a crash course or at least a few weeks of conversations about money and, just
money management and stuff like that.
Yeah, little things like that. But, we say it takes finance to uplift a nation. So, yeah, you have to be, that's part of what we're supposed to do, is if you know how to get money, or you know how to get grants, or you know how to get loans, or you know how to put people's trades that they're learning to use, and to put in line them up with the proper employer when they get out. Not that they walk out with this certificate and they don't know where to go. But the link is established. Well, if I know that that's not happening, why am I waiting for somebody else? If I just not stated that I know that these people don't know because they've never been in that situation, and I know, then why am I waiting for someone else to fix that situation? Right. I know that exists. So it's for me to go and create that link. Right. So if this person, now I got to find the people inside that have certificates in plumbing. They got apprenticeships. Right. And, they're welders, and these are high-paying jobs. But if now we have to make the conduit. We have to make the connection.
And that's what I think. I'm not sure if I asked you before, but I was asking if you get an apprenticeship or if you get a certificate while you're in the system, will that apply to you when you come home? Because will employers honor that?
Yeah, there's many people who's working in the jobs that they received a certificate for. Okay. And some of them,
that's a great. That's good. Yeah. That's really great.
And the community that people are returning to should also be involved in that process, because they should say, well, we do have these jobs available. Okay. And we do need people coming out of prison to, be a welder.
Be able, like you said, we need to link. I call it a puzzle because I love puzzles. So I'd be like, we need to make sure these puzzle pieces are all connected together, linking people to where they need to go. And if that puzzle piece doesn't fit, okay, then you need to go try a different avenue, but you need to help them. You need to it's not like you're taking her hand and say, okay, I'm gonna take you. No, they gotta have ownership on accountability for some of their actions as well. It's just that what they say, you can take a horse to the well, but you can't make him drink.
That's right.
Okay, well, I'm giving you the tools that you need. I'll help you a little bit, but you're the one that's got to go for that job interview. You're the one that's got to, make sure your finances are in order, or you're the one that's got to go to the supermarket and shop. I can't help you. I can't spoon feed you.
Right, and that's where people like me would come in, because I understand the difficulty of that. Right. Now, some people would say they have a limit to that. Me, I understand that, man, you need way more than that. It's hard for me just to go to the grocery store and use a credit card. And I used to be a manager in retail, so and that used to be my everyday job. Okay. But I can barely do it. So sometimes I have to hand the credit card to the person, and I have to just sit there and say, how do you swipe it in the machine? And that used to be my job.
Right. Well, can I say something?
Right.
I still don't know how to swipe it. Right. Because I'll be swiping it wrong, and the woman be like, ma'am, the barcode has. I'll be like, well, look, can you do it? Right. And I'll do that today. Right. Or they'll say, well, you have a chip on it. You got to put it inside. Oh, my God. I was like, this is not working. Oh, well, you got to enter your PIN. Why don't I know the PIN? And she'd be like, I was like, listen, ma'am, I know this is new technology, but it takes some of us time to get caught up. Right. It's not that we're back in Stone Age and we're not moving with you, but some things we move at our own pace, right? So that's why I said we can give you the tools, but some people, you're right, they need a little bit extra. And I don't mind helping when you need a little bit extra, but some people don't know when to let go of that noose. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's something that I've learned inside, is that you learn to be long suffering, because you see the same situation over and over and over, and sometimes you find yourself in that very same situation. So you're much more empathetic and sympathetic to people going through that. There's really no limit to the amount of help that a person will give, because you're always in that situation.
And you know what? I commend you, not to cut you off. I commend you, because your patience and your tolerance level is better than mine. I have limited patience. Yeah.
We don't give ourselves credit, but you probably have a lot of patience. So, you were waiting for me when I was trying to find and you saw my car circling around here. You're like, what is this guy doing? But I'm, so.
I mean, I have patience, but I think I'll tell somebody something 5 times, and if you don't have it by the 5th, 6th time, I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute, do I have to write all this down again?
Right.
But
you might, because even it says in the Bible, Jesus said, well, dealing with forgiveness, he said, well, you have to forgive them 7 times, and if you have to forgive them more, maybe it's 7 times 7, maybe it's 7 times 70, maybe it's 70 times 7. You basically have to multiply that, whatever it is that you feel that you reached the limit. You're just going to have to keep doing it, because eventually maybe the person will come through the situation, but it'll build something in yourself. Sometimes it's more about, it could be even what you build inside of your own character and your own self. And, that's why you're giving, don't sell yourself short at all.
Well, I'm going to work on being patient more.
Without a doubt. That's all right.
I want to close, but I want to close with, and I usually close differently, but I want to close with a humbleness to our audience, because as we've already identified, diversity is all around us, and we cannot select our audience. We cannot select who we're going to assist in any type of area. And I don't believe in that. My Christianity won't let me. I see everyone the same. I don't see difference. And you don't see difference. And I like that about you. I really do. But I want to leave our audience with something warm, positive, and I want them to be able to know that Usually we close on that they can reach us. They can send us an email. They can send us. They can call us on the phone. But maybe there's something different you want to reach because, again, this is a diverse. This is a global podcast. We reach people in Brazil, Japan, Italy, all over the world. So you never know who you may be able to help. And I'm going to step away and I'm going to let you have 5 minutes to say what you need to say and let them. I want people to know that they're not alone. I want them to know that if they need to have their voice heard, if they want to speak with you or speak with me, if they have a loved one that is having some issues in this beautiful state, I want them to be able to reach out. So I'm going to let you have the floor, and I'm going to take my self over here.
Okay, well, first I'd like to thank Leah for doing this podcast interview, bringing knowledge and allowing myself to explain some of these things from my perspective. Hopefully, what we'll be doing and what she'll be doing is taking a cue from the brother Andre Norman, who is bringing these podcasts into the DOCs through the secure system on the J players, so that they can access this from their bunk. And that's one of the biggest ways that we can demonstrate how we're showing that you are connected, that you are not forgotten, because this message is going to come directly to your bunk on your J player. You know, just do what you're supposed to do when you're in that system and you see them older brothers in there. Build with them so you can find out how to make it through and wise choices that you should make. Be a resource. Learn that you're going to be a resource for your family and for people that you're going to meet when you come out here, because people do need an answer. And sometimes you are in a think tank inside of those prisons. So without a doubt, this message is for everybody to be more proactive. She's doing her part. She's driving down several states to come do this podcast. I'm coming out here, at great expense to my own, personal situation that I have going on, to, share what I understand and what I've experienced, and hope that uplifts somebody else. But we can all do our part. So in you doing your part, that is you connecting to the people. No one has to reach out to connect to you. You connect to the other people by doing what you're supposed to do, even by you asking questions for your own self. Your questions sometimes make me think. When people bring, like when I worked in the law library and people bring their legal issues in there, I learned so much just by dealing with someone else's case. And it wasn't my case, but it was a scenario that I never even knew existed. But now I know, and now I can help another person. So, ask questions, connect yourself through your inquiry. If you want to know something, ask. And that conversation that you're going to have with that other person, can be life changing, even if it could build into a friendship, or it could just be a few words that were said. But sometimes those few words, they go a long way. So, I just want, anybody who's watching this, stay strong, keep your head up, connect yourself to the people around you. And that's the best I
Thank
got.
you. Okay, that will wrap up for tonight. We are going to go find some coffee because I need some. And this is a beautiful town that we're in tonight. It's a nice atmosphere. The weather is permitting. This is wonderful. And I didn't know about, we can probably get this on Securus or JPay to everyone. This is great.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. If you need to reach out to Mr. Ford, please do so by our website at hazelinspirations.com, and you can give us a call. We would get him the message. As I have stated previous with our presenters, we do not provide their contact information to help protect their privacy, but you can reach out to them through us, and we would make sure that they get a message, and it would be up to how they would like to communicate with you. We just want to make sure we have to protect our presenters as well as anybody else. So thank you for tuning in, and Mr. Ford will be back next week. We got a couple more episodes to do. And I am really engaged for the last part of this podcast with you. I am really looking forward to this because I'm going to learn a lot. I'm actually going to be quiet that time. All right.